Welcome, my friends. What if I told you that the man who created Hyundai, one of the biggest car companies in the world, once worked in muddy fields with no shoes, never went to college, and was so poor he couldn't afford a train ticket? So he ran 120 kilometers on foot just to chase his dream. This is not a motivational speech. This is not fiction. This is real. Today, you will hear the story of a boy who had nothing and built everything. A boy who had no money, no education, no power, but had one thing that changed his life, a decision to never stop trying. But why should you listen to this story? Because this is not just about business. This story will teach you how to fight when life hits you hard, how to believe when nobody believes in you, how to stand alone when the world shuts the door. And yes, this story will also improve your English. How? Because you are not just watching English, you are feeling it. You are living inside a story. That's the secret to fluency. Not grammar books, not boring vocabulary lists, but real stories with real emotion told in easy, clear, and powerful English. So listen closely, because this video might not just teach you English, it might change your life. Now let's begin the story of the man who started it all. Part 1. The boy who had nothing. Let's go back to the year 1915. We are in a small, poor village in North Korea. Yes, before Korea was divided. A boy named Chung Ju-young is born into a family of farmers. They grow rice. They live in a straw roof house. They eat simple food. Sometimes not enough. He is the eldest son in the family. That means he must help in the fields every day. No shoes, no toys, no time to dream. From the age of 7, he carries water, cuts grass for cows, and helps plant rice. His father is strict and believes in one rule: work hard, don't dream. A farmer's son must become a farmer. But little Chung was different. Even as a child, he wanted more. He would stare at the mountains and think, is this all there is to life? When he was around 14 years old, he had a dream. He wanted to study, go to school, learn math, and become a teacher. So one day, he secretly left home and walked miles to enroll into school. But his father found out and, in anger, dragged him back to the farm. Stop dreaming, his father said. Dreams don't feed hungry mouths. This was the first time life told him, stay small. But something inside Chung refused. A few years later, he tried again. He left home with only a little money and a big dream. This time, he wanted to go to the city, Seoul. But he didn't have enough money for a train ticket. So what did he do? He ran. Yes, 120 kilometers on foot. No phone, no food. Just the belief that there was more beyond those rice fields. When he reached Seoul, he found a job at a construction site. He worked with bricks and cement from sunrise to sunset. His hands bled. His back hurt. But every night he told himself, one day I will not just build houses. I will build something much, much bigger. After months of hard work, he saved enough money to start something small. With a partner, he opened a tiny rice shop. It was his first taste of business. But one day, his partner stole all the money and disappeared. He lost everything. Many people would have gone back to the village, but not Chung. He wiped his tears and said, money can be taken, but not my fire, not my vision. He started again, from zero. Over the next few years, he worked any job he could find. Carrying bricks, delivering salt, fixing bicycles, cleaning shoes. He watched, he listened, he learned, not from books, but from life. Slowly, he began to understand how business works, how people think, and how to earn respect, not just money. Finally, in the 1940s, Chung opened a small construction business. He built roads and repaired bridges. Even the government started noticing his work. Then World War II ended. Korea was broken, divided, and in ruins. But Chung saw opportunity. Where others saw destruction, he saw future roads. Part 2. Building from the Ashes, the Birth of Hyundai. We ended Part 1 with Chung Gru-young opening a small construction business. But let's not move too fast, because the world he was stepping into, Korea in the 1940s, was not a world full of hope. It was a country that had just been freed from Japanese control after decades of occupation. But freedom didn't feel like freedom. The country was broken, poor, ruined. There were no proper roads, no clean water, no big companies, no stable system. Korea was like a body with a heartbeat, but no bones. But where others saw nothing, Chung Ru-young saw a possibility. He believed, if the country is broken, then we must rebuild it. We, the people, must become the builders. Step 1. A bold beginning. In 1946, at around 31 years old, he officially started his company. He named it Hyundai, which means modern in Korean. Think about that. A man who grew up barefoot in rice fields without education started a company called Modern. He didn't just want to build roads. He wanted to build the future. At first, Hyundai was just a small construction firm. They built roads, bridges, and repaired buildings, mostly small jobs. But his mindset was completely different. Most people would say, we're too small to take big projects. But Chung said, we are small because we never take big projects. So he took risks. He bid for bigger jobs. He hired people smarter than himself. He watched everything like a hawk. He didn't sit in an office. He visited construction sites himself. He talked to workers. He checked every stone, every brick. He believed, if you build something, it must be strong enough to carry the future. The Korean War, crisis or opportunity. In 1950, the Korean War began. North versus South. Brother against brother. Cities burned. Thousands died. For many businesses, it was the end. But for Chung Ru-young, it was the beginning of something massive. He didn't run. He didn't shut down Hyundai. He looked at the destruction and thought, the country will need roads again. The country will need buildings again. And I will be the one to build them. He started working with the South Korean government, helping to rebuild key infrastructure. His workers were not just laborers. They were rebuilding their own homeland. This made Hyundai stronger, not just as a company, but as a name. People began to trust Hyundai, because when everyone was afraid, Hyundai kept moving. The bridge that changed everything. One of the most powerful moments in Chung's life came in the 1960s. The South Korean government gave him a challenge. We need a bridge over the Han River. Can you do it? Here's the truth. Hyundai had never built a bridge before. Other companies laughed. They said, he doesn't even have an engineering degree. He's not a bridge builder. He's just a construction guy. But Chung said, if we keep saying we can't, we will never learn how to do it. So he took the project. He gathered a team, hired engineers, studied blueprints, visited bridges around the world. And then he started building. Every day he stood by the river, watching, planning, correcting, and after only 4 months, the Han River Bridge was completed. The same people who laughed at him now stood in silence, because the farmer's son had just built one of Korea's most important bridges. This was not just a bridge. It was a symbol, a message to the world. South Korea is rising, and Hyundai is helping it rise. Thinking bigger than the world? After the bridge, Hyundai's reputation exploded. The government trusted him more. He was given projects to build highways, dams, ports, and shipyards. But Chung was still not satisfied, because deep inside, he still remembered being a poor boy with no shoes. He didn't just want money, he wanted transformation. He said, We cannot just copy the world. We must create. So he made a decision that shocked everyone. Hyundai will build ships. People laughed again. South Korea has no experience in shipbuilding. We don't even have the technology. But Chung smiled and said, then we will learn. We will start. We will try. From a fishing village to global power. He met with British shipbuilders and convinced them to partner. He studied shipyards. He bought land in Ulsan, a small fishing village, and said, this place will become the heart of Korea's industrial future. People thought he was crazy. But by 1974, Hyundai launched its first major ship and became one of the top shipbuilders in the world. From mud to metal, from rice fields to global factories. Chung was no longer just building a company. He was building a dream factory. The next impossible dream. By the end of the 1970s, Hyundai had built roads, bridges, buildings, ports, ships. But one thing was still missing: cars. At that time, South Korea imported all its cars from Japan and the West. But Chung asked a dangerous question. Why can't Korea make its own cars? No one had an answer. So he decided to find one himself. And that is where the next part of the story begins. Part 3. The Man Who Dared to Build a Car. Chung Roo-young, the boy who once ran 120 kilometers barefoot, had now built Korea's roads, bridges, ports, and shipyards. He was respected, admired, trusted, but he still wasn't satisfied, because deep inside he remembered something. Korea imported cars from Japan, America, and Europe. And people believed that Koreans could never build their own cars. That car manufacturing was only for rich, advanced countries, but Chung believed something different. He believed in his people. He said, we have built the roads. Now we must build the cars that run on them. His team was shocked. Cars? We don't have the knowledge. We don't have engineers. We don't have the tools. But Chung replied calmly, then we will learn. We will build the tools. We will train the engineers. That is what Hyundai means, modern. This was not just a business decision. It was a national mission. Learning from the best. In the early 1970s, Chung knew one thing. If you want to build something great, you must learn from the best. So he flew to Britain. There, he met George Turnbull, a top engineer who had worked at British Leyland, a well-known car manufacturer. Turnbull was surprised. Why would a Korean businessman with no car company want to hire him? But Chung didn't beg. He didn't flatter. He simply shared his vision. I don't want to copy foreign cars. I want to build something new. I want your help. Turnbull was impressed. He agreed. And he wasn't alone. Chung hired a team of top British engineers, experts in engines, design, safety, and manufacturing. He brought them to Korea, building with nothing but belief. When the engineers arrived, they were shocked. Korea still had dirt roads in many places. There were no advanced factories, no modern labs. They wondered, how can we build a car here? But Chung gave them something powerful. Belief, he said. You have built cars before. Now you are building history. They didn't have luxury offices. They didn't have high-end machines. They had one warehouse, limited tools, and a leader who refused to give up. Failure after failure. The journey was not easy. They faced hundreds of failures. Engines didn't fit, parts broke during testing, the car body was too heavy, suppliers refused to provide materials. Every step forward came with problems. But Chung never shouted. He never quit. Instead, he asked one simple question. What did we learn? He believed failure is not the opposite of success. It is the path to success. The birth of Korea's first car. In 1975, after years of struggle, it finally happened. The Hyundai Pony was born. It was Korea's first national car. It wasn't as luxurious as a Mercedes. It wasn't as fast as a Ferrari, but it was something more important. It was Korean. When the pony was revealed in Seoul, the crowd went silent. And then they clapped. They cheered. Some even cried. Because for the first time, people believed we can do it. We are not small anymore. Facing the world. But building the car was only the beginning. The real challenge was selling it to the world. Global car giants like Toyota, Ford, GM, and Honda laughed. Korean cars? They're just toys. But Chung had heard this before. When he built bridges, they laughed. When he built ships, they laughed. Now he was building cars, and once again, they laughed. But this time, he was ready. Small steps, big impact. He started small. Hyundai exported cars to countries like Ecuador, Egypt, and Chile. Then slowly, it expanded into Canada. And in 1986, Hyundai made a bold move. It entered the United States. They introduced a simple, affordable car, the Hyundai Excel. It wasn't fancy, but it was cheap, reliable, and easy to drive. And something incredible happened. In the very first year, Hyundai sold over 168,000 cars in the US, a record. The same companies that laughed began to worry. The fall and the comeback. But success didn't last. As Hyundai grew quickly, problems appeared. Engines failed, air conditioners broke, parts wore out too fast. Customers complained. American newspapers called Hyundai a low-quality brand. Sales dropped, trust disappeared. Once again, Chung Roo-young stood at the edge of failure. His team panicked. Let's reduce production. Let's stop exporting. But Chung said, no. If we are not willing to improve, we do not deserve success. Rebuilding everything? He made a bold decision. Hyundai would rebuild everything. Stronger quality checks, better materials, more testing, better engineering. He said, let's not compete on price. Let's compete on pride. Year after year, Hyundai improved. They didn't just make cars, they made better cars. A new global reputation. By the late 1990s and early 2000s, Hyundai had transformed. The world no longer saw it as cheap. Now, it was reliable, smart, well-built. Hyundai began winning international awards, quality awards, design awards, safety recognitions. In America, people started saying, Hyundai is not just good for the price. It's just a good car. A symbol of hope. Back in South Korea, something powerful was happening. People no longer saw Hyundai as just a company. They saw it as hope. Because whenever something seemed impossible, Hyundai found a way. And behind it all was one man, Chung Roo-young. But his journey was not over yet, because in the next part, he wouldn't just build a company, he would help rebuild an entire nation. Part 4. Legacy, the builder of dreams. By the 1990s, South Korea had transformed from poverty to power, from survival to growth. And everywhere you looked, there was Hyundai. Roads, bridges, ships, factories, cars. Chung Roo-young had not just built a company. He had helped build a nation. Hyundai became more than a brand. It became a symbol of hope, a symbol of what was possible. He once said, business is not only about profit, it is about people. His companies created hundreds of thousands of jobs. They gave family stability. They gave young people opportunity. Even in his 70s and 80s, Chung never stopped working. He visited factories, talked to workers, checked details himself. He never acted like a king. He acted like a builder. Because deep inside, he was still that barefoot boy from the village. A final act of humanity. In 1998, at over 80 years old, Chung did something unexpected. He traveled to North Korea, not with money, not with power, but with 500 cows. During the war, his family had lost cattle. Now he returned them, not with anger, but with peace. It was a powerful message. Forgiveness, unity, humanity. The end and the beginning. In 2001, at the age of 85, Chung Roo-young passed away. The nation mourned not just a businessman, but a builder of dreams. A man who proved you don't need a degree to change the world. You don't need permission to succeed. You don't need to be rich to create something great. He started with nothing and built everything. Final lessons. 1. You don't need permission to dream. Start now. 2. Failure is not the end. It is training. Learn, improve, continue. 3. Lift others as you rise. True success is shared. 4. Character is more powerful than money. Trust builds everything. Today, Hyundai is one of the largest companies in the world. Its cars are in over 200 countries. Its value is worth billions. Its impact reaches millions. And it all started with a boy who had no shoes. So, if life feels hard, if you feel small, if people doubt you, remember this name, Chung Roo-young, and ask yourself one question. Have I really tried? If this story inspired you, if it reminded you that your dream still matters, that your struggle has meaning, that your journey is far from over, then join this community of dreamers who refuse to give up. Your future is waiting. Keep going.